This is going to be a quick demo and code review of the new Conduit health endpoint. This is for getting general health information, making sure your deployment is up and running. So you can see here I've run make install. So Conduit is available for use. And I'm just going to set up a simple deployment using Docker. So if I pull up my Docker command here, it's going to be starting on port 4190. I'm going to save this for later. And this is just using a Conduit profile, so this is a simple follower node. So that is running. If I move up a little bit, let's configure a data directory. So let's go ahead and run Conduit init. I can show you the new option. So here's our API. So not a whole lot here right now, but we're going to define the port as 8981. So let's put that in conduit.yml and open that up. So we've got to fill in our algod information here. Let me paste in the token first. And for our algod address, I don't know why that moved over. So that should be the entirety of the configuration, but I'm going to go ahead and swap out the file writer with the NOAA processor. So we don't need anything here. So we're just going to start importing blocks and then discarding them essentially. So if I shut that down, we can run conduit-d and use this data directory. And you can see it's importing things. So they're around 132. It's just sort of going along, and our follower node is also just sort of processing things and discarding them is going to be doing that. And meanwhile, let's go ahead and check our new endpoint. So it is installed at, I believe, 8981. Oops. /health. So here you see the health endpoint. So if your service isn't running, this is not going to return, and also gives you a little bit of information about what it's up to. So this is the whole feature. So let me shut down my node, and we can jump into the code. Here we go. So this is pretty straightforward. Let me start at the CLI. So we've got a new option called address, which we just saw. And essentially, if it's defined, we go ahead and start this API server. There's just some information. It will log errors, all that good stuff. If I move up to the pipeline, you can see there's a new status function added to the pipeline interface. So that's just what we're using to get the round. Currently, it only reports the round. In the future, you could imagine the status could include other things. Maybe if there are errors being reported, or maybe like if it's still initializing, it could give that sort of information. But for now, we just grab the next round and return it. Configuration, this is how we add a new configuration. We've got this struct, the new API YAML option, and the API options. Not much right now again. Server is also fairly standard stuff. Just creating a new MUX, which is going to handle the health endpoint, creating a new server, starting it, and then there's a shutdown callback just so that we can shut everything down gracefully. And the handler, also very simple. We've got a status provider interface, so this is the only function we need from the pipeline, so we don't need to pass around the whole pipeline. And when you call the health endpoint, we're just going to call that status function and return the data. So status goes in here, then we serialize it. And some tests, all these things tested. This is probably overkill for a simple server, but it tests most of those different cases. And that's it. So this should hopefully be useful for deploying and managing Conduit.